In 2 weeks, we went from not being able to grab, a ball with a claw to having a 5-finger humanoid robot hand solving Rubik's Cube in simulation. And I was like, wow,
Whoa.
wow.
That's a big leap.
And so to me, that was what convinced me that this was actually possible, that we actually had found a mechanism that if you could figure out how to pour enough compute and pour enough data into a neural network, there's really no limit to how good it could get.
CEO and co-founder.
Joe Lonsdale, the founding partner of
Palantir co-founder, Joe Lonsdale.
Bob McGrew is an old friend from Stanford. We were in a couple groups there together. He was ahead of me in computer science. He joined PayPal a year before me. I learned a lot from him over the years. We convinced him to come on early at Palantir. He was a key early leader, helped run engineering, helped run product, really helped make Palantir into a great company. Normally that'd be enough for a good reason to talk to Bob, but you know what? He joined OpenAI first in 2016, full-time in 2017. This was before the Transformer paper. I have no idea how he knew this was the place to go. OpenAI has transformed the world. He has the front row seat there, helping run research, helping really run a lot of the efforts going on at OpenAI. This is the guy to talk to hear what's happening in the AI world. I'm looking forward to having you meet him. I'm Joe Lonsdale. Welcome to the American Optimist. Bob McGrew, thanks for joining us today.
Great to see you again.
Bob is an old friend. We were in a couple groups at Stanford together, including Phi-Sci, and you were at PayPal a year before me.
2001, 2002.
What were you doing at PayPal?
I was working on cryptography.
And tell us a little bit about your background. How did you end up at Stanford, at PayPal? Where are you from, Bob?
Well, originally I came from a small town in Oklahoma, and my parents were college professors, and my dad was a computer science professor. And I remember, I think 3rd grade, he bought me a book where 2 kids use computer programs to solve problems for detectives. And I was hooked. And so my whole childhood, I would buy these books and I would always be writing programs. But again, small town Oklahoma. And this was during the first web boom. And so I always knew I wanted to go to Stanford. I never actually thought I'd get in, but I did.
That's pretty funny, actually. I didn't realize that you're solving problems for detectives in the book, and then you go to Palantir, which also kind of solve problems to help catch the bad guys.
It's a crazy coincidence, but I think it just shows that I knew what I wanted to do from a very young age.
So you joined OpenAI what year?
2017.
2017. So for the last 6 years, you've been helping run things at OpenAI. But let's talk about Palantir a little bit. I interviewed Alex Karp earlier, our good old Dr. Karp, and he talked a lot about how it took a really special type of genius to create what we did in terms of the engineers at Palantir Gotham. What was Palantir Gotham? What were you working on? Why was it hard?
Well, I think the really funny thing about Gotham was the hardest part was we had no idea what it was supposed to be at the beginning. So the goal was to build this platform for the intelligence community. So basically software for spies. But as you remember, the first hard problem about a spy is actually finding one, right? And then once you find one, they don't actually want to tell you what they're doing.
They want to tell you cool stories about using guns and like little devices and stuff, but yeah, not really about the information architecture.
Or you try to ask them what they're doing, they're like, oh, that's classified, and they give you some sort of tortured baseball analogy. And so instead of all the UX books that you interview your customers, you try to find out what their problems are, and you build them to solve their problems. And we couldn't do that. And so basically what we had to do was we had to build the product we thought they needed, which was wrong, and show it to them. And they would tell us we were wrong. They'd be like, oh, this is crap. Why don't you build this other thing instead? And we would do that, and you and Stefan would go into DC and show this to them and bring back that feedback.
It was a combination, right? Because I do think there were certain first principles, but we all kind of could figure out they would definitely need. And then, there was the iteration of what they actually needed. And so we had to have a lot of both sides, right?
We knew it was something about data, that somehow we had to get their data in, and that we would let them ask questions about their data. But we were totally wrong at the beginning about what kind of data they had.
They had a lot less structured data than we assumed.
Exactly. Yeah. It turns out intelligence community, it's all about reading documents and trying to understand and parse documents and figure out who the people are in the documents. And if the person in this document is the same as that description they have in the other document.
They had spent over $30 billion on databases and gathering data, so I assumed that they had more structured data. So that was pretty complicated.
Yeah, and that was mostly wrong. I think they had it and they didn't know what to do with it.
Do you remember any of the characters? One of my favorites was Sir Mark. Do you remember him?
I do. Yeah.
I think he was the one who said that if you don't take out your gun unless you're going to use it, and if you're going to use it, pull the trigger twice. He's the MI6 guy. You have any other favorites?
I remember, I think I have to stick to first names here, but I remember our first customer at the agency. Her name was Sarah. And she was the only person that believed in us. I think the really crazy thing about Palantir was how long it took to get a product that actually worked. I think it took 3 years before we had anyone using it to solve.
Remember a
problems.
few people almost quit right around year 3, right before that happened. And it was like this thing where like people were so exhausted, like this is just crazy and it's not going to work. And then we got them to stay on. And then we kind of got over the hump and people started using it.
I remember that. I remember, and this is one of those things about the really great engineers is that a really great engineer wants certainty, right? They don't want to, they've been doing something for 3 years. All they can see are all the problems that are in it. Yeah. And, I remember sitting down and having a conversation with our best engineer and just sort of convincing him to stick it out for 9 more months. And he built the security system that we ended up working with. It was a critical piece to allowing us to actually deploy. And then he quit.
Yeah.
But if he had...
Well, thank you for holding the team together. We were both fighting hard to hold it together because it was kind of like, what are these kids doing at that point? I don't know if you joining was really, really critical to Peter giving us like our money for the second time because he was like, you guys got Bob to join? How'd you do that? So
I did not know that.
That was actually, yeah. So thank you. You're a good indicator for Peter Thiel.
You've kept that a secret from me for all these years.
Well, just forgot to tell you early on. Well, we all did very well from that.